This is an honor. I can't tell you, and I know because of the calls we get on this program, there are so many fans of this senator that it's hard to put a number to it. But let me introduce him to the program. He's coming to North Carolina. He'll be in the state, giving a keynote speech at the North Carolina Republican State Convention, and he is Senator Ted Cruz. And Senator, we're thrilled and very honored that you could give us some time. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you, Bill. It's great to be with you, and thank you for having me on.
Well, you know, one of the things, I mean, you stand on principle, and for a lot of us, that's really important, and I know you've done that against amnesty. I'm curious, if you don't mind, if we just jump right into this. How would you deal with the wave of illegal immigrants that are entering the country today?
Well, look, what is missing is the political will to solve this problem. We know how to do it. We understand the tools. I represent the state of Texas. We've got nearly 2,000 miles of border with Mexico. When you visit with law enforcement on the border, as I have many, many times, they consistently give you the same answer, that the most important tool is boots on the ground. So I introduced legislation in the preceding Congress to triple our Border Patrol, to put in place strong technology, fencing and walls, to quadruple our fixed-wing and rotary-wing aircraft so that we have technology to make the boots on the ground more effective. To put in place a strong biometric exit-entry system. About 40% of illegal immigration doesn't come over the border at all. It's visa overstays. And to mandate E-Verify so that you cannot get employment in the United States without demonstrating you're here illegally. Those tools work. We know they work. What's missing is not an understanding of how to solve this problem. What is missing is the political will, and sadly, it's a bipartisan failure. The Democrats are adamantly opposed to enforcing our immigration laws. Obama has been the most lawless president we've ever seen. And sadly, there are far too many Republicans in Congress who have acquiesced in President Obama's lawlessness. It's why we need a new president who will stand up and enforce the law and finally secure the borders.
No, I agree. What's wrong with the GOP? Why is the GOP leadership so hesitant to stand up against this president? And more importantly, you know, it's our back, right? You have our back. They're supposed to have our back on this.
It's exactly right. And the problem is, I've said many times, the biggest political divide we have in this country is not between Republicans and Democrats. The biggest political divide I believe we have is between career politicians in Washington, in both parties, and the American people. And what has happened is there are far too many Washington politicians that are listening to the lobbyists, or listening to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, or listening to the special interests, and not listening to the American people, not listening to the men and women who elected them. And part of the reason why you see Republican leadership so tepid in standing up against President Obama's unconstitutional amnesty is that many of the big money players in the Republican Party support amnesty. They're very happy with it. From their perspective, it's cheap labor, and none of the bankers or lawyers or lobbyists are losing their jobs to people who are coming here illegally. I've joked many times on this issue would be very, very different if it were a bunch of lawyers and bankers swimming the Rio Grande taking their jobs. But it's not. And I think that frustration, there are millions of working men and women who get that we're being lied to, get that our elected officials tell us on the campaign trail they're opposed to amnesty, but then they don't stand and deliver. And I think that's one of the reasons incredible enthusiasm for our presidential campaign. You know, since we launched the campaign just over 2 months ago, 100,000 people have come to tedcruz.org, have donated, have supported the campaign, have signed up to volunteer. And I think the reason is that consistently in my office, I've done two things. Number one, tell the truth. And number two, do what I said I would do. Listen to the American people and fight for conservative values. And I think people are hungry for someone who will do exactly what he said he would do.
I think you're absolutely right about that. They're also very afraid, you know, whether it's the economy or what is taking place in the Middle East now. I mean, what do you think about how President Obama is handling this war on terrorism?
It's an unmitigated disaster. If we look back over the last 6 years, the Obama-Clinton foreign policy of leading from behind is a tragic failure. what we see consistently is that America has receded from leadership in the world. It's created a vacuum. And into that vacuum has stepped bad actors, nations like Iran and Russia and China and ISIS. And today, our friends and allies do not trust us. And our enemies do not fear us. There's a reason I refer to it as the Obama-Clinton foreign policy, because Hillary Clinton designed and implemented leading from behind, and every region of the globe has gotten worse. And I think I'm center of the 2016 presidential election, and the primary and the general is going to.
Oh, I think, Senator, you must have entered a bad cell. I don't know if you can hear me, but you're breaking up badly.
Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you. Good. I'm glad. I was afraid we were going to lose you there.
Well, I think it was the Obama Justice Department trying to cut off my cell phone.
Or maybe the NSA. I wanted to ask you about that, too. You know, we had the Patriot Act. Some of the parts of the Patriot Act, of course, expired, but then the USA Freedom Act, which I know you're a co-sponsor of.
Right.
What's the difference between the two?
Well, I'm a very proud sponsor of the USA Freedom Act. I think it is the right approach, and as you know, it just passed overwhelmingly both houses of Congress. What the USA Freedom Act does is really two things. Number one, it ends the federal government's bulk collection of phone metadata for law-abiding citizens. I think it was wrong that the federal government was collecting your phone metadata, my phone metadata. It was inconsistent with the Bill of Rights, with the Fourth and Fifth Amendments, and I'm proud to have joined with Senator Mike Lee in this bipartisan legislation that just passed overwhelmingly through Congress. Now, at the same time, the USA Freedom Act maintains the tools we need for law enforcement and national security to be able to target individual terrorists who have direct connection with radical Islamic terrorism, to intercept their communication, not a general warrant seizing everyone's information, but if there's specific evidence that an individual is communicating with radical Islamic terrorism, we need to maintain the tools to intercept their communications and to stop acts of terrorism before they occur. The USA Freedom Act does both of those. It ends the bulk collection of metadata for law-abiding citizens, but it maintains vital national security tools. And that's why I was a proud co-sponsor of it.
I got to ask you this, and I know we're running short on time, but why do you want to run? I mean, you're becoming a very powerful senator, influential senator. You got a great life. What's motivating you?
You know, Bill, I'll tell you, it's something very simple, which is that our country is in crisis. I've got two little girls at home. Caroline and Catherine are 7 and 4. And the country they are inheriting is mired in stagnation. Our constitutional liberties are under assault. We are at the edge of a fiscal and economic precipice where we are bankrupting our kids and grandkids. And I'm running to fight for my kids and for all of our kids to get back to the free market principles and constitutional liberties that made America the greatest country in the history of the world. You know, my father escaped Cuba, where he'd been imprisoned and tortured, and he came to America seeking freedom, and that freedom is in jeopardy. And if we don't stand and fight, we will lose the greatest country in the history of the world. So I'm running to fight for the freedoms that are our heritage in America and that are so imperiled right now.
Well, Senator, it's I know you're going to be at the convention center, and you're giving the keynote speech, I believe, at the luncheon reception at 12 o'clock. Can I ask, is it just a speech, or are you going to be spending time? Because I know, boy, there's a lot of people who want to meet you, talk with you. Are you going to be on the floor talking to folks?
I'm going to spend a considerable amount of time on the floor just visiting with people. I would encourage your listeners to come by, visit. Let's take a picture. Let's have a chance to talk about the issues that are weighing on your heart, that you're praying about. And the reason that's so important is the only way we're going to turn this country around is if it comes from the grassroots, if it comes from the American people, millions of courageous conservatives saying enough already, we want our country back. And so what I'm trying to do more than anything else is energize and mobilize the grassroots to rise up and demand that we restore our Constitution and we get back to the principles of liberty upon which America was founded.
Yeah, well, I wish you nothing but success, sir, because we most desperately need that. And again, our thanks for joining us on the program. I hope we'll have an opportunity to talk to you again because I think you're going to for the long run. So, Senator, good luck to you. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. God bless you, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sir. Thank you.